I wanted to end the show today talking about being judgmental, which it doesn't take a lot of judgment to realize that's not a good thing. But I did want to talk about how difficult it can be to either suspend our judgment, because I'll kind of walk us through this a little bit. When we engage with anything, whether it's a person, an idea, a decision, we have an initial feeling towards it. And when we look at research on decision making, when it comes to moral decision making and other factors, we see that feelings are actually a big part in the first part when it comes to making a decision. So most people, if you ask them why they support a gun law or are against a gun law, pro-abortion, against abortion, whatever it might be, we think it's because of our pure logical reasoning that we've come to some decision, that there's no feelings involved, it's just about logic and reasoning. But Jonathan Haidt did research years ago showing that it's much more about our feelings when it comes to even moral decisions, or even, let's say, legislative decisions or political type of decisions. It's much more about feelings that initially make a decision, and the reasoning comes after. So you might think I'm passionate about gun rights or abortion just because of the issue, it's so big, and then now I have feelings, but a lot of it is that the feeling came first, and the decision is kind of like we have a lawyer that comes in after the fact to defend us, whatever is the case. A lawyer, if they're defending you, it's not that they're thinking you're not guilty, but they're just going to defend that you're not guilty. And so similarly, our brains in a way are wired in a way that we feel something, and then the logic comes in to explain why we think what we think. So we have a feeling first, and this is why actually making a judgment or suspending a judgment takes effort. We might think if I'm making a judgment, even the way we say it, that takes effort to do that. I'm judging that this is bad or good. I had to make a decision, I had to put effort. But really it's actually the decision is happening automatically, or that emotional response is happening automatically. If we're going to suspend judgment, it actually takes effort. So this is something that came to me recently. I kind of had recognized it but not thought of it in this way, and that's why I wanted to share it today, because I think it's kind of puts it on its head, or flips the order. We usually think, oh, it takes effort to be judgmental, just don't judge, right? We even say it that way. Don't judge, don't make a decision. But we have to realize it's the other way around. I already feel something about everything, basically. And so now it's about not putting too much weight into that, because that's the part where people might not recognize they have more control. So the first step is always, we have to be aware of the feeling. So to think, no, I don't care about this, or I don't think about this, probably isn't true, and means we're not in touch with what's going on. We always have a feeling to something, and that feeling, if we break it down in a very general way, it's either positive or negative, meaning it's feeling good or feeling bad, going towards the thing or going away from the thing. But then there's also the intensity. So it can be very low intensity or very high intensity. So I might tell you the color brown, and you might not feel that much about it. Maybe you kind of like it, but it's not that strong. Or I might tell you your daughter's name, and you have a strong positive feeling towards that. So it's positive and it's very strong. So when it comes to making a decision or looking at people's behavior or a certain person, we have to first recognize I already have a feeling about it that's just there. And that part of it often is not in our control. You can't really control why you feel that way. And it could be for lots of reasons. You've maybe encountered this thing in the past, someone like that in the past. Even I said name. I can tell you a certain name, and maybe some of it, if you've never met someone with that name, it's about how nice you think it sounds. But if you know someone with that name, you don't like that name because of that. And I've actually seen parents, they're trying to name their kid, and they say, oh, what about the name, Penelope? And then someone says, oh, yeah, I knew this Penelope in college, and I really didn't like her, so no, I don't want that name. So because the name is associated with that person, for this person, they don't like that name. And if they're aware of it, they see that's why. It's not, oh, it's too many P's, or it sounds this way, or it sounds that way. No, it's that they dislike someone with that name, and so for them it's associated with that. And so our brains function in this way. They're predicting machines. So when we tell it about something, or if it encounters something, it has a type of a positive or negative response to it right off the bat without us really controlling that part. But here's where we're not just feeling beings. I'm very big on promoting our feelings because I think, one, they're very important and they're gonna run the show if we're not aware of them. But we have higher order ways of thinking that can then counteract what we just feel, so our feelings don't just make the decision. So when I encourage people to get in touch with their anger, it doesn't mean now that I realize I'm angry at this person, I can do anything to them. I then now have to decide how to deal with this feeling I am now aware of. Okay, I'm angry with my friend. How do I want to deal with this? Do I want to tell them? How do I want to tell them? Do I want to save it for later and tell them? Whatever it is, I have now a decision to make. So when you encounter something, you have a feeling. But if you're aware of it, you can make sure you don't let it turn into a judgment. So you can be aware of, you know what, I already don't like this person because I realize they're from this country where I've had some bad interactions, and so I don't want it to lead to being racist or judgmental in some way. The feeling you can't just change immediately. You can change over time by, for example, let's say, you know what, I have these few negative interactions with people from that country. Let me actually go see the good of that country and the people, because there's good in all people, in all cultures and all backgrounds. So what if I expose myself to the good of that? And if you do, over time, that negative association will change, because it won't just be like, oh yeah, those 3 people I interacted with that I didn't have a good relationship with, now I'm seeing, oh, look at this person doing humanitarian work, oh, look at the beautiful music and the art and other things. Getting that exposure over time, not just immediately, and it doesn't mean automatically, can lead to that changing. But first I have to even be aware that the negative feeling is there, and I have to actively go against it. And so when someone shares something with us, so someone says, I want to do this. Now you might want to say, I don't want to judge it, but you initially will have a positive or negative feeling about it. I don't think they should do it, or I think they should do it. Now that's your starting point, but this is where, again, that's automatic. The active part is to suspend judgment. Say, you know what, I feel myself leaning this way. And you might not even tell them this, some of this is going on in your head, but let me think things through a little bit more. First, maybe I can see why I'm getting pushed that way. Okay, actually, maybe I'm pushed that way because I don't like the thing they want to do, or the last person that told me they did that had a bad experience, so I'm skewed in that direction. Okay, that's where my feeling might be coming from. Now let me think about it a little bit more. So this can be tough for some people to recognize, because they might think I'm not a judgmental person. And there's a difference when we say judgmental in that we're putting people down or really harshly making decisions about them based on certain things. But we have to recognize we're all judgmental in the sense that we all have feelings and reactions to certain things. So that's our starting point. And so when we're actually trying not to be judgmental, what we're saying is that I'm not going to give that much weight to my reactions. So if I just realize I don't like something they're doing, and you might realize this, people that are very judgmental, what they'll do is they'll say, for example, I've heard this recently, okay, tattoos. Oh, people with tattoos are this or that, which is all based on just your own emotional reactions to things. And so rather than saying, oh, you know what, I think I just have a negative view on tattoos or feeling about tattoos, because when I was young, my parents used to say lots of things about people with tattoos. I heard that a lot my whole life, that all people with tattoos are this or they're that, or the way it was portrayed in the media. If I think about it, it was always something kind of, maybe a person who is not as good might have a tattoo. So that's where I'm coming from. So we're actually recognizing that feeling, it doesn't mean everything. We listen to it, we have acceptance that it's there, we want to try to understand it, but we're not going to give it so much weight to say, okay, I've had that feeling, it has to be totally bad. People that are judgmental have that feeling, and they say, oh yeah, see, they're such bad people, they're not good, and look, I can show you this example or that example. They hold on and fixate too much on that feeling and try to prove it right so strongly that they'll find a way. And you can always find a way to prove yourself right. We're very, very good at that. And you can find examples to support what you think or believe or feel, and then you'll even more further feel that that's true. So what we want to shift towards is to actively be open-minded. And so again, being judgmental almost comes to us more automatically and naturally, and is happening behind the scenes all the time. Suspending judgment or countering that takes some effort. You know what, I'm feeling like I don't like this person, but I want to recognize that that could be based on some feelings and things that might not be that important. And here's another area that gets a little bit complicated. I actually value intuition, not in some magical sense that has to be coming from somewhere outside of us, but that our feelings are very good at picking up on things, or we are very good at picking up on things that we might not be aware of. You might walk into a room and you have this negative feeling, and you might realize later, oh, it's because I actually was here once, a while ago, and something bad happened here. So the feeling actually unconsciously knew more than you knew consciously, and over time you were able to become aware of it, that, oh, that's why I didn't like it. And maybe that's something good. Oh yeah, there was someone bad that lives in this area that maybe is still here that hurt me last time. Or you might realize, like, oh yeah, that was because that time I slipped here and fell. It has nothing to do with this place being unsafe. Maybe I'll look at that place where I slipped and not make sure I don't fall again. But this place isn't bad. It was because I fell that I have this bad association with this place. So this is where it does get a little more challenging, that there is some value to paying attention to those feelings as well, which I would encourage you to do. And this is where the discernment becomes important of, why am I feeling this? So always, just even in relationships, but also in something like making decisions, the what is very important. I'm being drawn towards this. I feel this way. But the why is so very important, because that can inform us of what we should do with that feeling, or what type of information it's giving us. Oh, you know what? I'm having this feeling and I'm realizing, oh, that's right. This person actually did this and this and this, and I kind of forgot about it. So I don't know if I should trust them when it comes to doing this with them. Or we might realize the why is, oh, you know what? This person is wearing the same shirt that other person did that I didn't like, and I'm associating that with them. And there's no recipe to know for sure that why. It's an exploration. We don't get 100% answer. Sometimes things resonate more. You're like, you know what, I think this feels right. I kind of understand this to be the case, but we won't always know. So we're faced with this challenge of listening to our feeling because it has value, listening to our feeling because it can tell us something before we really understand what it is consciously. Unconsciously, it's telling us something. So we're conscious of the feeling, but we don't know the why. So we want to pay attention to that part. And there is value in intuition, that it might be telling us something that's very important. This is why I don't like this. This is why I didn't want to do this thing. But we do have to also be aware that sometimes that feeling isn't something good. I've been told people that do this are bad, and so I already assume before I know. Or I had a bad experience with someone with this name, or someone who looks this way. That's why I don't like this person. And also the vice versa. I really like this person. Oh, it turns out it's because they remind me of this other person. It has nothing to necessarily do about them. Or it could be actually they have these good qualities and I should want to be with them. And this is what I mean, that it's a constant type of a exploration that we have to go through in trying to understand, first, what am I feeling? And then why am I feeling this? And then also realizing that our pull and push towards people and things and ideas and decisions is often or always includes an emotional component. And to try to suspend our judgment before we too firmly make a decision takes some action or active necessity or behavior from us. I have to stop myself from too clearly thinking I already know. So this is, again, this challenge. I listen to my feelings, but I don't let them dictate the situation. I listen to my intuition, I try to understand it, but I don't just listen to it 100%. I know some people will say your intuition will never, lead you wrong. I've heard that a lot, and I think there's some wisdom to some of it, but this never. We look for these black and whites because it makes it easier. If my intuition says this, I should do it. But when we look at who people get attracted to in relationships, their intuition is often leading them towards the most unhealthy people, because it's reminding them something of their past, something of their parents that's unhealthy, something they wish to resolve. So I try to stay away from making absolutes that your intuition is always right or something is always wrong, because I don't think anything is that simple. Your intuition can definitely have wisdom that you might not consciously be aware of. It could definitely guide you in important ways. It's very important to listen to those inner feelings because they can tell you so much, but they can sometimes lead us astray too. It would be nice to have an easy answer, but it's just not that way. So when we first start trying to make a decision, be aware of that feeling, be aware that being judgmental is actually the automatic as far as making a judgment initially in a snap way. It takes some effort to counteract that, to suspend judgment. Listen to the feelings. First try to get the what, but make sure you don't stop there. You have to go to the why, because if you just have the what, you might not realize you're getting bad information, really. Information that's not going to help you in this decision. Once you get to the why, that can help you. And then, of course, we use our higher order type of thinking to also look at the pros and cons of what we're going through, and then recognizing at the end of the day we'll never be 100% about a decision or a judgment. There's almost no way to get to that point, but we get to a point where we feel good about it, or it feels most right to us. We make the decision, we go forward, and we live with the consequences. All right, that brings us to the end of today's show. A big thank you to Ghazaleh here in the studio. You've been listening to In Session with Dr. Farid Holakouee. Have a wonderful day.